From 4 years playing VFL to being picked up by the Dogs in the 2004 rookie draft, the humble, hard-working and incredibly inspiring Dale Morris has left no stone unturned to get the most out of his body and footy career. In this intriguing chat, the Dogs premiership star opens up on his journey, critical factors to his success and key learnings from legends of the game such as Chris Grant, Brad Johnson and Jason Ackermanis. Dale Morris, thank you very much for joining us. This is a conversation I've been looking forward to for a little while now. How are you?
No, I'm going well. Thanks for having me, Sully. This is my first podcast recording, so take it easy on me. We'll see where it goes and have a bit of fun.
We'll be gentle. We'll be gentle. It's hard to know where to start. We've played a lot of football against each other.
Yep.
And you've got such an interesting story from the outside looking in. But as a rookie, many years ago, a couple of years on the Werribee list before you got your chance.
Yeah, no, it all started before that, back at my local club, Do Stars, in the Essendon District Footy League, and I was lucky enough to play for such a great club. And when I was about 17, playing in the seniors, we actually had an ex-AFL player come down, and Simon Minton-Connell. He came down and was our full forward. And me being a young fella coming through, they played me at full back for the first time ever to play in the back line. I was always a centre-half forward midfielder, like the Showtime, bit of me. But no, they threw me down back to learn a bit, to play against men, really. I was 17 and I got to do a lot of work with Simon. And after that year with Dooders, Simon said, I think you've got something. I've got some contacts at the Bulldogs. Would you be interested in going out and trying out for a rookie spot? And me being a 17-year-old, I jumped at the opportunity. I couldn't even believe he asked me.
Yeah.
And back then it was come down and they had rookie days, and you would train with a group of other people, and I came down and had no idea what to expect. I was playing against these other guys that I looked at them and, oh, geez, they're way more talented than I am, and had a crack, and then spoke to the Dogs after that, and they said, listen, we don't know anything about you. Simon's brought you in, you must have some talent. Would you be interested in playing for our VFL affiliate squad team, Werribee?
Yep.
And I said, of course, tell me how to get there. From there it was each year I was at Werribee for 4 years. At the end of each year, I'd come down and train, do the pre-season with the Dogs, and try out for the rookie spot each year. Each year would get closer and closer, but get overlooked, and they'd say go away and work on a few things, and whether it was my skills, my execution, decision making, speed, they were really good in keeping me in the loop on what to work on. And then after my fourth attempt, they picked me up in the rookie draft. I'll never forget walking into Rocket's office. First year he was at the club, so I didn't know much about him, and he didn't know much about me. But the assistant coaches I'd spend a lot of time with, it was Chris Bond, Leon Cameron, Alan Richardson.
Yep.
They were the big three assistant coaches, I think, that really pushed my case forward, and I reckon they got me in here to begin with, so forever thankful to them. And walked into Rocket's office. I'd heard stories about Rocket, so I was terrified to walk into his office, and he said, take a seat. I'm like, oh no, what's happened? I'm thinking, geez, did I go out on the weekend, or did I do anything wrong here? And he goes, listen, you've been training well, but and it was all like going down the negative, and oh no, here we go again. He goes, but unfortunately, we're going to pick you up as a rookie. And I said, oh, that's okay. Are you going to pick me up? And he goes, yes, you're going to be our rookie selection. And I didn't know what to say or what to do. I said thank you and had this big smile on my face, ran out and it was one of the hardest training sessions we did, but I had a smile on my face through the whole thing, so nothing was going to break me that day.
Jeez, mate, you've been smiling ever since.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there are some unbelievable players. When you first got to the club in those 3 or 4 formative years training beforehand, daunting?
Oh,
like
yeah.
seeing these guys running around, these guys trying to train for a position on the list or a rookie list.
Yep.
Must have been a nerve-wracking time.
Oh, it was a huge learning curve for me. I just played local footy.
Yep.
And then I rock up and do an AFL pre-season and see these, well-conditioned, defined men running around, and I'm like, holy moly, I'm out of my depth here. I actually got to play in some scratch matches, some intra-club matches, and one of my favourite moments was I got to play on Chris Grant, as a young, kid trying to get on a rookie list.
Yeah.
And I remember some of the coaches just saying, if the ball gets kicked up high, just don't be stupid. Don't run through anyone, which is hard when I'm trying to impress as well. But I remember the ball coming up to me and Granny, and he was slightly in front of me, and I thought, I've got him here, I've got him covered. The ball came in, he jumped, I jumped, and I punched the ball as hard as I hit it flush. And I thought, okay, where's the ball gone? I look, and it's just in this vice grip of Chris Grant. It didn't move, and I've gone, holy moly, I've got a lot to learn here.
Yeah.
But it was just incredible. It was a great time. And like you said, some of the greats of the club, those guys in Jonah, Westy, Rowan Smith, Granny, Darth, the list goes on. And I got to play footy with them as well. So it was an incredible time in my, not just my footy career, but in my life to actually be running around with AFL players.
Did you have a really strong sense of self-belief that you were good enough to play at the level? Because it's a huge, going from local footy to training to then ultimately getting picked. Did you always have a really strong sense of self-belief, or was it just a matter of, okay, I'll have a go at this now, but I'll do it as well as I possibly can?
I think it's the way that I was brought up. I've got an older brother, Dean, a younger brother, Jonah, and everything was a competition. So everything we did, it was full on.
Yep.
You didn't mess around. And we always tried to beat each other in everything. It was even to the point of getting a drink of water, who had the most water in their cup. And we'd crack it if we weren't the ones with the most in our cup. So, I guess a lot of credit has to go to them, because we were and probably still are quite competitive. And you build resilience over the years too. I tried out for the Calder Cannons before getting, trying it for the Dogs, and tried out for 2 years and got knocked back both times and didn't make the squad, which was a real, kick in the guts for me. Growing up, you were always told you play TAC Cup if you want to play AFL. Tried out twice, would make a couple of cuts, and then be the one that gets cut just before the end, or a couple before the end. And they were really tough times, really tough. I thought my career was over at a 16-year-old. But just applied myself, and it was a bit of whatever happens. If the opportunities come up, I want to be ready for them. And it's funny how things work sometimes. And as a young kid, I always, dreamt, and the whole visualization, which is something that I've been massive on. Didn't really know why I did it as a young fella.
Yeah.
But I think that is the reason why I got to where I got to. And just you just give it everything you've got, whatever the opportunities come up. And my thinking was, if I don't make the AFL, but I've played VFL, the second best competition, that's something I can hang my hat on. So what's the harm in giving it all I've got, see what happens if I get into the AFL, and playing in the second best comp in Australia would be something that I could, sit down at night and be proud of.
One of the things that really struck me in sort of going through your career and doing some research here was that your first year, coming off the rookie list and playing senior football, you got an All-Australian jumper. That's right?
The first year was the international rules. I got selected in the international rules. That was 2005.
Yeah.
Kevin Sheedy picked myself and Lovett, and that was our first year.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of, negativity towards that how can you select 2 first-year players?
Yeah. I mean, that's a remarkable. That's a remarkable effort, having not played senior AFL footy and then representing the country in the national rules.
My head was still in the cloud just to play one game, and then I was away on holidays when I got the call and had this round ball delivered to where I was on holidays, and I thought, what is going on? This is unbelievable. And then you get to play with some of the game's elite. It was incredible. To be able to have that opportunity is something pretty cool.
Sort of chronologically going through some of the years with the Dogs, there's a real purple patch in 2008, 2009, 2010 as a footy club that you went really close every
very close. Yeah, that was both good times and frustrating, tough times.
Yeah. So, I mean, 3 prelims, consecutive prelims, but couldn't quite get over that hurdle to get into the grand final. Why not?
It's a very good question. You know, you look at teams that have won recently, they talk about belief. We had just as much belief back then, and probably just as talented, if not more talented list when you go through it.
Yeah.
And I look back at, you know, those opportunities missed during that time, and I think we really did miss out on a huge opportunity as a team and a club. And you go back and look at those games, and you talk about moments in football games, and it was just some key moments during those times, at important times, that you know, the opposition were able to get on top of us. Whether it could be free kicks, it could be decision making, execution. You know, the old saying, "Kick straight," you know, and it wins your games and all the rest of it. That's something that we just weren't able to do in those key moments. And you know, I look back at that, and it was very, it was tough, sad, disappointing times, but it was also, you know, something that we were able to achieve together.
Yeah.
But yeah, still frustrated we couldn't get one then.
Are there any moments in your mind that stick out that really sit in your guts? You think that, you know, the what if moment, or maybe something that happened off field that sort of translated on field in one way, shape or form that just might have made a difference?
There's a huge one that sits with me now, and something that still burns in my guts, and it was a decision that I made during one of the prelims against Geelong. I think I either took a mark or got a free kick and went to switch the ball to Brad Johnson, and the kick, I didn't mean to, gave it a little bit of flight, and Max Rook came, spoiled the ball. Geelong went forward. To me, it was front on contact. Jonah should have got a free kick, but didn't. And then the ball spilled. They went on, got the goal, and got a run on from there. And it was late in the game, a really important point in the game. Yeah. But that is burnt in my memory, and something that that I'll never forget and live down, because I feel like that was such an important time in the game, and I feel like I let the team down right then and there, and maybe even cost the prelim.
This cat, as the ball goes inside the forward 50, once again it will be repelled. Morris across the ground at Johnson. No free kick. That's going to be contentious. Lonigan, Rook, Johnson is down, hook, goal. And that hurts the Bulldogs.
Have you had the conversation with Jonah? Have you spoken to him about it?
Yeah. We spoke about it pretty soon after, because you roll into the next pre-season and stuff, and I'd say, I should have kicked that better. And Jonah, he's a very positive person, and he was like, don't worry about it, mate. That's one moment. That didn't define the game. There were heaps of times where we just didn't take our chances, and no matter what he said, it wasn't really going to help. But that drove me to not do that again, and to be ready if that situation came up again, to not make that same mistake. And I think what added to my frustration is I thought it was a free kick. And during that pre-season, we had the umpires in to umpire a game during the pre-season. And I think it was the umpire at the time. He was there, and I can't remember exactly, but he did mention that should have been a free kick.
Oh. That's the last thing you want to hear.
And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I've been losing sleep over this moment, and you're saying it was probably there? I wish I could remember exactly the conversation we had, but I remember feeling so sick after that. Are you serious?
Yeah.
But it is what it is. The game, we play with an oval footy. It can bounce in any direction. You look at Milne with that, same situation. Yeah. The game is so chaotic, and so many things can change in an instant that you just need to be ready. But I ride all of those moments as hard as each other.
It's funny how those specific moments or games can be distilled into that one moment unfairly.
Yeah, well, that's my take on that. And if you asked another player, it'll be a missed shot on goal or a missed tackle. But for me, that was huge.
You could probably flip it and say, well, it's Jonah's fault. He should have ran at the ball instead of just sitting there and waiting.
Why didn't he take the mark?
There were some sort of tougher times after that for the footy club. Went through a lot of change, a few more ups and downs.
A lot, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you go back and the early days when I was younger, the whole visualisation and I would lie there at night before a game and visualise playing the game, and I do it during the week, and preparing both my mind and body for the upcoming match, training session, whatever it is. And visualisation, it's a funny thing. Some people hear that and they go, "Oh, no, that's nothing. It's a myth." But for myself and for a lot of people out there, it actually means something. And visualisation isn't thinking, okay, I want to win $1 million tomorrow. I want a new boat. I want a new house. Visualisation is using all your senses during that time to think about and putting yourself in those situations. So then you're actually living that moment at that time. I'm lying in bed. So you can smell the grass, you can see the crowd, you can feel the bumps, the hits, the whatever it is that you're doing.
Yep.
You actually live it in that moment. And for me, as soon as I got picked up in a rookie, as a rookie, my dream and my vision was to win a flag, and that didn't change. You know, even after the prelims, and you talk about the tough times where we'll finish down really low on the ladder. We'd lose our coach, our captain, our CEO at one point. We had some very dark days, but my vision didn't change. I didn't think, when you're coming to the end, you break your leg, you get injuries. I still had those visions.
Yeah, so that's all very good and well when you're on the field and you're contributing and things are moving forward. And visualisation, as we know, is really powerful. But when you're stuck on your back with your leg in a cast or you've got a broken arm and you are so far away from holding the Premiership Cup, let alone actually walking and playing and training again, how do you maintain that visualisation? And is there a continuum whereby you visualise walking and then visualise running, or is it just straight holding a cup?
No. There's the process to it all. Yeah. When you're playing, I came into every season thinking that we can make the finals, win the flag every year. You need to think that. Otherwise, what's the point of rocking up for round one?
Yep.
You need to think you can play finals. And I'm quite a positive person. I look at the good in people, the good in things, but there are some bad things that do happen, and that's just life. And they are the hardest moments. The important thing around that time is the network and the support around you. So I had my worst injury by far is the broken leg.
Yep.
That was horrible. And I'm not lying there in the hospital bed thinking, no, we can win a grand final here and stuff. Everything changes. I have self-doubts. You start to, lose trust in things. Thinking, can I get back again? Can I play footy? Can I run? Can I walk? Can I jump? All these doubts creep into your mind where you don't know. And they're the hard times, and you do hit the lowest of lows, and self-doubt and pity and stuff like that. And I'm no different. I had some really dark times with the broken leg, but my wife and my family, the people closest to you, are the ones that you lean on the most. The club was great, heaps of support from the players, coaches, staff at the time.
Yep.
But the ones that you really need at that time, your family and close friends, and that is what helps you process those dark times and help work your way through. Because without them, you'd be stuck there longer, and then you can enter that vicious cycle of just getting worse and worse and worse and feeling sorry for yourself.
So you've got this incredible resource because of your upbringing in terms of resilience and your setbacks and what you've been able to do and achieve. How do you handle or how do you address these high draft picks that come into the club and they're now your teammates who have just had it all their own way? On pure talent alone, haven't really had a setback, and all of a sudden they walk into a club, they want to be playing round one, they throw the baby out with the bathwater because it's all too hard for them.
Yeah, yes, and you would have seen it too, time and time again. Or they don't get injured through their juniors, and they come in the pre-season and they have the soft tissue injuries, or injuries happen, they have setbacks, and it's a really hard thing to explain to the young guys, who, especially the ones that have come through and get picked up high and think they're just going to come in round one. Yep. And you need to go through the cycle of acceptance when things do happen. And
so what's the cycle of acceptance?
So something bad would happen, and you've got some choices to make.
Yep.
You can get stuck in the, poor me, the pity side of things, and you need to go into that phase because it's just natural. I do it. Everyone does it, going, this is crap. Why me?
Yep.
But it's being able to process that and move on pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, what do I need to do to get back to where I want to get to? So you sit down and you work out. For me, with my broken leg, it was just getting out of bed and walking again, and setting up small goals so you can slowly get to where you want to get to.
Yep.
And then from there, it's moving forward. How am I going to move forward? What's the next goal? What's the next challenge? What could go wrong, and preparing for the things that might happen to you,
mm-hmm.
and not getting stuck in that, this is crap, pity me, poor me, sorry. So you get these kids that come through, and they're, when you think about it, in the under-18s, they're at the top of the tree. They walk-up starts. They come into the AFL, and they start down the bottom. And that can be a hard thing to transition into an AFL club, and you see a lot of kids struggle with that. So putting your arm around them and talking to them and understanding, I guess, why things are happening can help them process what's going on.
Yeah.
But you don't want to take away their flair and that excitement that they do bring. So it's a really tough balance with all of that.
Yeah. This is all self-taught in terms of your outlook and being the cycle of acceptance and being able to package things, or have you sort of outsourced, if you like, and seen psychologists and read a hell of a lot to get to this point?
It's something that, looking back on, I just did naturally as a young fella. Don't know why. I guess it's how you're brought up and your surroundings and stuff like that. But I've also done a little bit of research on it, on, I guess, why I do things the way I do. And even along the positive mindset, the visualization, I didn't even know it was called visualization. I just did it. I had dreams, I had thoughts, and I didn't know it was an actual thing. But you come across things along the way that justify what you're doing, and you go, that's why I'm doing it. And then you dive a bit deeper and work it out, and you can really relate to what's happening.
Yep.
But it's not for everyone either. Some people I'm a very positive person. There's other people that aren't so positive, and that's just their makeup. But we can all learn a little bit from each other.
Yeah. So along that journey, 2015, 2016, remarkable,
crazy, in
so many different ways.
Yeah. Unbelievable time.
Let's start with how.
That's a very good question. We're talking about all these things that you can't really measure, the positive mindset, visualization, and the rest of it. But the biggest thing to come out of, we lose our coach, captain, CEO. Feels like the club's spinning out of control. We don't know what's going on.
And it looked like it too from the outside.
100%.
You're sort of scratching your head and saying, what the hell is happening at Whitten Oval?
Yeah, exactly. Where are the Dogs at? Why is this happening? Are they going to be able to pull through and survive? And then the club made some very strong and some great decisions on the key pillars of the club. Starting with Bevo as the coach.
What are the key pillars?
Well, you've got your coach, obviously, who's a massive pillar in the organisation.
Mm-hmm.
You've got your CEO and your president. The president, we know what he's done in the past. He's an amazing person, what he's done for this club. So he's the right guy right there.
Yep.
They appoint a new CEO, which is, we don't have any say in. We rely and trust that they're going to make the correct decisions for that.
Yep.
And then the coach as well is a huge decision for any club. And we get Luke Beveridge come in, who we've heard bits and pieces about, but not a heap.
Yeah. So did you get lucky with the coach? Because it was the first time senior coach. I mean, and
he had a job at the Saints at that time too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Remarkable record, Bevo, as an assistant coach and as a senior coach during the amateurs. But first time senior coach at the AFL level.
I think you make your own luck, and we had a the great board at the time that made that decision, and they would have done so much research, so much digging to find the right guy for this group. So you need to understand the group, so the coach and the group can, relate and be able to get along. And the other key pillar is the skipper, the captain. Who the guys are going to fall behind and support and help and trust. And Murph steps in as the skipper, and at that time was a perfect choice. Voted in by the playing group. Has that real empathy for the players, that real connection with all of the players. And so those key pillars were decided, and it was perfect. And the thing that I was saying that you can't measure, along with that, and from the first meeting with Bevo at the club, there was this sense of belief and trust that, hang on, I think we're all right. Bevo's come in, he's steadied the ship, he's got Murph on his side, helping him lead the group, and the guys are like, hang on, this feels right. And you start pre-season, the messaging starts coming from the coach. The boys are relating not only to the messaging but to him strongly, and the skipper and everything, and it just built from there. And that first game under Bevo in the pre-season game was against Collingwood, I think. And so we came out, the big unknown, how is this new game plan and structure going to work under the new coach, and it's a new team essentially. And we came out there and we played well and won really well, and we finished that and looked at it and gone, geez, this actually works.
What is it?
This is all right. I think we're going to be okay. And then from there it just built more and more, and it just kept on rolling to 2016, which was incredible.
So ironically, Murph had been overlooked as the captain, or hadn't been considered maybe as a captain previously. The board instills Bevo as the coach. Everything's lining up. Is there an element of luck to it all?
Like I said before, there is luck in a lot of things, and the lack of luck in others, and I'm a prime example of that with breaking my leg, breaking my arm. I have seen the incidents, I'd watch them once or twice after it's happened just to see what actually happened. And you look at them and say, if I am half a centimetre in any other direction, that doesn't happen. So there is a bit of, it's unlucky that it actually happens. And same thing with decisions that are made. There would have been, with Bevo being coach, there would have been other candidates that were super close to getting brought in. But they make this decision. Some things are meant to be.
So everything's fallen into place, particularly the second half of 2016. And again, the meteoric rise continues. And the last 2 months of football, probably last month in particular, for the Bulldogs is probably like nothing we haven't seen before. In terms of that patch.
I haven't seen anything like it before. I haven't been a part of anything like that before. It was an incredible month of footy, and during the season we weren't as consistent as we'd like to be. We dropped some games we shouldn't have dropped, won some games really well, and we were searching for that consistency. And we finished 7th probably for a reason, a good reason, because we weren't the best team for the home and away season. But we knew our best footy could match it with the best teams in the competition. So we come into the finals and we lost our last game to Freo over there, in the last game of the year. And they smashed us. And we were coming back there in 2 weeks to play, you'd say, a better team in West Coast because they finished higher on the ladder and all the rest of it. So we were up against it. We had our challenges, we had injuries and everything going on, but that belief in each other and our belief in the coach and everything that we stand for really shone through.
So the dynamic that you had then was unbelievable, right? The magic within the group, the feel, the touch, all of those intangibles. Where does it go?
It's amazing that you look at players that are playing well and they say, he's confident. But the players that aren't playing well, he needs to find his confidence. And what is that? How do you just go and get confidence. You can't just go and grab it off the shelf and say, okay, I'm better now. You know, how do you do that? And to be a confident player, it comes down to training and you know, executing and that's your belief is tied in with your confidence. And I think during the 2016 we had a great mix of youth and experience in the team, and you lose players along the way. You get injuries and all the rest of it, which aren't excuses. That's just reality. That's what happens. But the belief is always there, but you need to build on it. You can't take it for granted and say, "Oh, no, we'll be sweet." It's something that you need to continually work on and build each year, pre-season, season rolls on, everything.
So, I mean, that's a very linear approach to it, I guess. But, I mean, you must sometimes scratch your head and think about that period of time and then think about the last 12 to 18 months at the Bulldogs and just and wonder, you know, how do you get that back? Whether it's just a series of small incidental behaviours that you repeat over a period of time that then gives you that confidence.
Yeah.
Is it frustrating?
Oh yeah. We want to be the best every year. Everybody wants to be their best, and they want their team to be the best. And we're no different. And coming off winning a flag and then having the season we did the following year was very frustrating. Yeah. Very frustrating and disappointing. But it's not one thing. Like you said, there's a whole heap of little things that it takes time to then, you know, repair all of these little things and focus on these little things, because footy, it's so chaotic that if you focus on one thing, something else will pop up, and you can't fix it all at once. But there's skill, there's behaviours, there's so many little things that you need to get right and get it right more often than not to be a successful team.
What are some of those behaviours? Now, sort of putting the team aspect to the side for a second, and looking at some of the horrific injuries you've had, and that optimism and that cycle of acceptance that you talk about. How do you get yourself up off the deck from having everything in a cast and just the entirety of your being going into being an AFL footballer to that all of a sudden just getting stripped away?
That not only that, and your dream and everything you want to be and do, and being an AFL footballer gets taken away. Is really hard. And then on top of that, your independence gets taken away. If you're on crutches, with me, I had a plaster cast up to my hip for a month. I was in a wheelchair. We had to get my old man over to make it wheelchair accessible so I could get in and out of the house if I needed to. My days were bed, couch, bed, and that was it. To go to the toilet, my wife Jem had to help me, which to have a shower I couldn't do on my own. It was very, very frustrating, and just soul crushing, because you're also the man of the house. You're the husband, you're the dad. That's taken away.
Your ego's just
it's crushing. It's crushing. And that's where you look forward to those little goals that you set. I was stuck on the couch one day, and Jem had to quickly duck to the shops, and Riley was in at home with me. He was about 2 at the time, and on top of that, the impact of my injuries on my kids, I think, has been quite big as well. But this point in time, Riley was coming into the lounge room, and I there with my leg up. I can't move. I'm just watching TV, and he trips a little bit and spills some water on the rug. I said, "Oh, Riley, mate, be careful." And he's looked at the water, looked at me, and goes, "No," and then just tips it out onto the carpet. And I'm sitting there going, "What?" And I'm going nuts, going, "What are you doing?" So he realised Daddy's lost all his power here. He's got the power.
Are you furious?
Oh, jeez.
Like, you cheeky little...
Yes. I'm like, well done, but... And then
if I could get my hands on you right now.
Yeah, and I'm helpless. I cannot do a thing. And he just turns his back and walks off and goes and plays with his toys and does it down on there going, "Oh, you little..." And then... But then he soon found out when Daddy was mobile, that stuff wasn't going to fly.
Yeah, of course.
But, it was frustrating, but you need to you need to find the positives. In all these negatives, bad stuff happens. And footy's great. There's a lot of positives in there. But these bad stuff that happens, you find the positives. Whatever that is, it might mean more time with your family.
Yeah.
It might mean, you get to look after yourself a bit more on different areas of your life, out of footy, whatever it is. There's still some positives in the worst negatives that you can think of. There's still something there that you can hold on to.
Yeah. So if footy's taken away from you, really briefly, the future's uncertain. You've got a young family to support. How do you sort of disassociate Dale Morris and the footballer? Like, do they coexist? Are they one and the same? Is there anything besides Dale Morris as opposed to just the footballer?
I think the biggest thing that I have realised over my career is early days, it was footy. Footy was my life, and I think footy was defining me as a person. But then you have kids, you get married and all the rest of it, and your perspective on things changes. And I was like, I don't want football to make me who I am. It's helping me be who I am, but that's not all I am.
Yep.
Because if that is all you are, and then it is taken away from you, what do you have left? There's nothing. And that's where guys can really feel lost when their footy career finishes, because they think footy is who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where that you can, all bad stuff can happen with, your mental well-being and stuff like that. So I realised that. I guess I'm lucky that I did, because I was obsessed with footy. I still am, but I've got the balance right now. So you can get caught in that trap. But the biggest thing that I found, not only with wife and kids and the perspective your kids give you, it doesn't matter how well you played, whether you won, whether you win a flag or you finish on the bottom of the ladder, you get home, and if you're upset or anything, they don't care. It's like, Dad, come and play. And it's like, righto. And all that stuff you're feeling, you leave the baggage at the front door.
Yeah.
Your kids want you to be Dad, not Dale Morris, who just got, 6 goals kicked on him by Buddy Franklin. They don't care.
Yeah.
Or you've played the best game of your career and you're on cloud nine. They're like, can we go on the trampoline now? And I came, after winning the flag, I come home with the kids and had the medal and stuff, and I sit down with them, trying to explain how important it was, and I'm looking at them, and this is going straight through. And they're like, and they wait for me to finish, they're looking around, they go, righto, Dad, can we go on the trampoline now? So it's, the premiership medal gets thrown on the couch, and you go, and you're just Dad. But on top of that, with life outside of footy, a big thing that I've realised is getting that balance of that work-life balance. And what I've done the last probably 3 years is I've been doing some work experience at WorkSafe on our day off on a Wednesday. So I spend 3 or 4 hours in with WorkSafe, learn as much as I can, and then it can help with the transition outside of footy. You learn new skills, you start networking, you do all that. So I think that's a big thing that our club is starting to do more and more of, because then you can tailor players' studies to what they actually think they like in the real world. So if you were to come in, we'd sit down and say, what do you think you want to do outside of footy? And just say, I like the idea of marketing. So we sit down, we look at our networks, our connections at the football club, hook you up with a marketing company or whoever, and you spend a month there doing some work experience. After that month, we sit down, we review, you go, I love it. You go, sweet. All your study is going to be tailored to what you love. And it's amazing when you love something, you'll give it so much more.
Yeah, no doubt. God, I could keep going here. Unfortunately, we do have to. There's a timeline. I'm going to mention some names to you.
Yep.
And I want you to react.
This is always dangerous.
It is dangerous. That's why I like to catch you off guard a little bit.
Yep.
Chris Grant.
Legend.
Luke Darcy.
Stubborn.
Stubborn.
Yep.
Luke Beveridge.
A great man.
Luke Dalhouse.
He's passionate.
Bob Murphy.
Spiritual.
That's a good one. Brad Johnson.
Legend.
The Bont.
He will be a legend.
Peter Gordon.
He's a bulldog through and through.
Yeah, he bleeds it, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
We sort of touched on it before, but is there anything at this point in time that you could change?
that I would change.
That you would change.
I would change all the injuries that I'm getting. That would be nice.
You say that though, but what you've learnt from those injuries, I would imagine, like not clutching at straws, but would you still be playing now had you not learnt what you did from those injuries?
Well, would I still be playing now if I didn't take the 4 years to get on a rookie list? You know, I've learnt so much from the injuries, and I do joke, and I am half serious saying I wish I never had all these injuries, but I have learnt so much, and they've been able to make me who I am and learn these lessons. So it's a bit of a, you know, catch-22. You don't want them, but that's finding the positives from having them.
I was looking at pictures of you sort of throughout your career. Your body shape has changed a little bit too.
Yeah, and that's another positive. I break my leg, I can focus on getting some upper body strength that I didn't have before that. I break my arm, I can do a lot more leg strength and leg work, and help with all the lower limb injuries that I've had before. And that's what I mean with finding those positives out of the negatives.
How important is the diet through those periods?
Huge. I was always, like a lot of young footballers and nearly every footballer was led to believe about the high carb diet, load up before a game. And
you have to have energy, right?
Well, that's what I thought. That's what I was led to believe. And 3 or 4 years ago, a mate of mine, Jason Ackermanis, I still catch up with him and stuff. And we went out to his place, and we were talking about just footy. He's got a great footy brain. You know, he knows so much about the game, and he was talking about this way of eating that he'd been doing for a long while, and all the study and the research behind it, and how it can actually benefit. You know, a lot of marathon and triathletes eat this way, and how it can help AFL footballers. And he said, I reckon you should look into it. And he explained it to me and gave me some research to do. My wife is kind of eating that way. It's almost like the paleo diet sort of thing. And I thought, well, it all makes sense to me. Did all my research, my due diligence, and said, righto, let's give it a go. And cut out all the processed carbs, the processed foods, and cut everything out, all the breads, all the rest of it. And really tough for the first 3 weeks. Had withdrawals, felt horrible, but got through that.
Almost like an addict.
Yeah. Oh, it was shocking. Headaches. Felt like I couldn't get up in the morning. But now we get DEXA scans nearly every pre-season, and I guess at my age it usually would drop a little bit. Lean muscle mass would drop, fat would go up. So I have a high fat, high protein diet, and people think, oh, you're eating a lot of fat, you're going to get fat. It doesn't work that way. I've shifted my body's fuel system from relying on carbs to now using fat. And you think about, if we were to go out and go for a run, if I'm relying on my carb source for energy, you can only eat so much, and your body will process that. But your body has fat all over it. There's a bigger fuel tank for you to use.
Did you have to convince the dietitian of this shift, or they were across it already? Society suggests that we've got it all wrong.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. And this was I guess you could say this was a bit of a risk to take. But any decision that I make, anything that I'm going to do with my body, I do a lot of research behind it. I'll talk to the right people, and so I can make the right decision. Talking to the dietitian, they're like, yeah, well, you can give it a go. It was the start of pre-season, so timing is important too. And they said, if you start on this diet and it doesn't work, then just shift back. I said, beauty, we'll give it a go. And we talk about the DEXA scans. My DEXA scans have actually gone the other way. So lean muscle mass is increasing, and fat's getting less. So, throughout your career, and anyone's career, you look for these little gains that you can find along the way. And this was something that I thought could work for me. And it's been great. The visualization works for me, and I'm up for giving anything a go once I research it. I've got a magnetic bracelet to help with blood flow and balance and stuff like that. And some people, that does nothing, but it can't hurt. Do some research and give anything a go.
I like that. Couple more. We're running out of time. Mentor. Do you have a mentor? Have you had one, or have periods of time?
Yeah, I've had quite a few over the years, and I think coming into a football club, you look for someone who can help you along the way, and I gravitated towards Granny, and it's great having him here. He's such a smart, calming influence for someone. You know, he's a legend of the club, but he's just so humble at the same time. And I learn a lot just by observing him and watching him. If I had questions about anything, he would stop, take the time, and talk to me and help me. So that was huge.
Did you choose him, or did he choose you?
The good thing with that is it happened organically.
Yep.
The thing that I don't think works is the forced relationships with that stuff, because no one's really... They're going to invest a bit in each other, but not as much as if it just happens. And I gravitated towards him, and I loved him as a player and as a person, and so I was just always picking his brain and trying to do as much as I possibly could with him to learn. If I could learn just a small amount from what he's been through, you know, it was always going to help me. And throughout your career and throughout your life, different people come in that help guide you and help you. And Dale Nissen at WorkSafe was massive for me with that transitioning and life after footy, thinking about those sorts of things. And I still talk to him today and pick his brains with different things. So it's always evolving and changing, and you're trying to learn so much from so many different people.
Do you have a life motto or a catchphrase you sort of keep coming back to?
No, I don't really have a life motto. I just... If I'm going to do something, I'm going to be all in. Yep. And I'm going to give it...
It's close.
Yeah, I'm going to give it everything I've got.
Yep.
Leave no stone unturned. Oh, here we go. We're just reeling them off now. This is all right. I didn't think I did, but maybe I do. But, you know, just giving it absolutely everything you've got. Because if you aim for the stars, and if you just go for it, like with my AFL career, and you don't quite get there, for whatever reason, stuff happens.
Yep.
But you'll be amazed with how far you go.
Yeah.
You know, if I had only played VFL and played seniors in the VFL, and I knew that I gave it absolutely everything I've got, but I just didn't make the AFL, I would sit back when I'm old and grey and be content and be happy with what I have done.
Do you have any fears?
Yeah, I certainly do. I'm no different to anyone. I have the fear of failure. I don't want to let my teammates down. That's I think the biggest thing that drives me when I'm playing is I just don't want to let my mates down on the field. You know, I have fears of making wrong decisions during the game, in life, with kids, with, you know, everything. But I'm always learning from my mistakes. If I make a mistake, I want to learn from it. I don't just sweep it under the rug. But yeah, I have some fears. And
the last one, what advice would you give to a young Dale Morris?
Drink more milk, but just to give it a go. Give anything you go. Give it everything you've got, and you'll be amazed where you're going to go. I wouldn't change. But if I got to meet my younger self, I wouldn't give him any advice that would change his decision making on things that were coming up. It would just be more the behaviours of just give it absolutely everything you've got, and you'll be amazed to see where it goes.
Thank you very much, mate. That was a fascinating chat, and I'm going to walk out of here and going to order myself a big plate of chicken and avocado and throw out the bread.
Yep.
Dale Morris, thank you very much. Fascinating chat.
No worries. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We're talking footy.